Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. The movie for discussion today is Van Helsing, a 2004 movie. If you love vampire and werewolf movies, please stay. So the movie begins in 1887, where we see a group of villagers gather themselves and go to create to lynch a creature that has been created by Victor Frankenstein. So Victor tries to save this creature, and then we see an interaction between Victor and Dracula. Dracula apparently has been the one funding Victor's experiments. Dracula also wants that creature because of something. And in Victor trying to stop Dracula, Dracula ends up unaliving Victor Frankenstein. Now the creature is able to escape. He was being strapped onto a table. The creature is able to escape, carries hits Dracula aside, and is able to carry the body of Victor Frankenstein and leaves. He runs away. The villager sees the creature, follows the creature up to another house. So the villagers see the creature, chases it, and burns down the house that the creature is on top of. Dracula has been able to recover, runs to go and save the creature, but unfortunately, the place is burns down and the creature dies. Fast forward to a year later, then we are shown Van Helsing. Van Helsing apparently works for the Vatican in Paris, where they are tasked with saving mankind from supernaturals that are using their powers for evil. And then he has been given a new. So Van Helsing has been given a task by the Vatican to go to Transylvania in order to save the people from Dracula. Dracula has been plaguing that particular town, and specifically a family that looks like their generation is ending. Apparently, 450 years ago, a Transylvanian knight had promised God that his family would never rest or enter heaven until they have vanquished Dracula. And years down the lane, they have not been able to, meaning that they were left with only two descendants. And if those two descendants also die before Dracula's death, then none of their family members would ever make it into heaven. So Van Helsing is tasked to go to that town and save the people from Dracula, and in so doing, also saving that family from going to eternal hell. So he was tasked with saving Princess Anna and Prince Velcom, the only two surviving members of that particular. Introduced to Prince Velcom, who, in connivance with his sister, are trying to stop a werewolf that has been sent by Dracula. And in stopping the werewolf, unfortunately, Prince Velcom dies. Then Van Helsing has made it into Transylvania, and then he encounters his first attack from the wives of Dracula. There are three in number, and it looks like these vampires were specifically aiming for Princess Anna. And then Van Helsing is able to save Princess Anna by killing one of Dracula's wives, which leads the rest to actually leave. Van Helsing tells Princess Anna that he has been sent to save her, and that yeah, she's practically, or he's practically her only hope. She refuses, and Van Helsing is able to capture her in order to stop her from acting reckless. Then we see that a werewolf comes in to, will I say, unalive Princess Anna, and the werewolf turns, and we see that the werewolf is actually Prince Velcom. It means that he didn't die but was bitten by that particular werewolf that they had killed earlier on, and he has also become a werewolf. So Van Helsing tries to analyze the werewolf, but Princess Anna is so emotional. She stops Van Helsing from analyzing her brother, and then her brother is able to escape back to Dracula. So we see that now that the brother is a werewolf, Dracula is the one controlling the brother. The brother has no willpower of his own. So not only is Dracula controlling the werewolf brother, but Dracula was also responsible for their missing father's death, and he wants to use Prince Valcom to also wake up his children. His children can only be woken up using the souls of others. So it works. He's using the brother, the children are able to wake up. Now Princess Anna is able to convince Van Helsing to follow the footprints left by Prince Valkan in order to save Prince Valkan from Dracula. They go there and they discover Dracula's secret. Dracula's children go into the town to feed, that is to drink the blood of the town. So Van Helsing attacks Dracula and realizes it's really not that easy to kill Dracula. And then Dracula starts revealing that years ago he had met Van Helsing, but Van Helsing cannot remember. And before he could reveal more, unfortunately, Dracula's children already start dying. The human that he was using was not enough. Is distracted because his children is dying or are dying, sorry. And then Van Helsing gets that opening to escape with Princess Hannah. So at this point, Princess Hannah has actually agreed that her brother is way beyond saving. So as they escape, Dracula asks the brother to go and follow them and analyze them. They end up in a ruins where they find Victor's creature. It looks like the creature hadn't died in that fire after all, but was hiding. And then the creature reveals that it is his soul that is needed to keep Dracula's children alive. So they should unalive him before Dracula gets his hands on him. Because if Dracula is able to get his hands on him, everybody is going to die because of Dracula. But Van Helsing refused because he realizes the creature is actually good at heart. But unfortunately for Van Helsing, the werewolf brother that had been following had heard the conversation and had gone to go and report to Dracula. So now Van Helsing is trying to save or yeah, is trying to help the creature. And then he decides to take the creature back to so the creature is taken to Rome. And on their way to Rome, they are attacked by the werewolf and also the two brides of Dracula. This one of the brides is killed, and then the werewolf is also killed. And that is when we realized that before Van Helsing was able to kill the brother, Prince Valcom, who had turned into the werewolf had unfortunately bit him too, meaning that eventually he, Van Helsing, would also become a werewolf. Princess Hannah sees this, and before she reacts, she's captured by the other bride of Dracula. And then that is when the exchange is made. The bride says they have to give Dracula Victor Frankenstein's creature, and then they would give him back Princess Anna. It looks like Van Helsing is actually running out of time now because he'll be turning into a vampire pretty soon. So they dress in a costume, they hide the creature, and then they go to get Hannah back. They're able to get Hannah back, but unfortunately on their part, Dracula is able to get his hands on the creature. Now, Van Helsing decides that he will save the creature because he knows no matter how monstrous the creature looks, the creature has a good heart. So, Van Helsing, Carl, and Anna. Carl is the monk that was tasked to helping Van Helsing out. They discover Dracula's lair, go there to save Frankenstein. They are able to find Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's monster reveals that there's actually a cure for the werewolf sickness and that Dracula has it in that particular lair. They are able to capture Dracula's henchman, and then they're able to discover that Dracula is actually keeping a werewolf bane because Dracula can actually be only killed by the bite of a werewolf. So even though he's able to control werewolves, he uses them to his bidding. If he gets a werewolf that is not under his control and is able to bite him, then that is when Dracula will be able to be killed. So they divide themselves. Van Helsing goes after Frankenstein's monster, saves Frankenstein's monster, whilst the henchman was tasked to lead both Carl and Anna to the cure. So they separate ways, and then we see that there was a chemistry or an attraction between Hannah and Van Helsing. They kiss each other goodbye and then they go their separate ways. So Frankenstein's henchman tricks them into and locks them into the room that actually contains the antidote. Runs away, um Van Helsing also goes and is actually about saving Frankenstein's monster, who they were already using for the experiment, and Dracula's children were waking up. He's been able to free the monster halfway when Dracula sees this and goes to stop Van Helsing. So he knocks Van Helsing down, and then that is when Dracula actually finds out that Van Helsing has the werewolf gene now. So Dracula gets very scared, and then they start their fight, a vicious fight between the werewolf and the vampire creature. So Carl is able to retrieve the antidote, and then unfortunately on their part, they are attacked by the last bride of Dracula. Carl is the one tasked to go and try to save Van Helsing, whilst Hannah tries to also defeat that bride. But unfortunately, a vampire, sorry, is stronger than a human. So the fight was really not that fair. So Frankenstein's monster is able to free himself. Hannah is able to actually kill Dracula's bride, and then we are back to the fight between Dracula and Van Helsing, where Dracula reveals that Van Helsing had killed him years ago, centuries ago, trying to convince Van Helsing to be at his side. But unfortunately, Van Helsing changes at the last minute and is able to bite Dracula to. So as Dracula dies, Anna rushes to administer the antidote to Van Helsing. Unfortunately, she is killed by the werewolf Van Helsing. So Hannah is dead. They all mourn her, and then we see that at dawn she's lighted. And then Frankenstein monster actually survives. His family has been reunited, and apparently they are going to heaven. The movie ends with Van Helsing and Carl riding onto the sunset. Thank you once again. You can recommend the next movie I should do, and then please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more and more videos. Bye bye.